Hello and welcome to the Video Creator Show, where we talk the juicy details of how to succeed on YouTube. And what better way to do that than to talk to somebody who has already done it. Today, I am talking to John Williams of This Is John Williams. His YouTube channel currently has over 22 million total channel views and over 159,000 subscribers. Today, I'm going to talk to him about how he built his channel. He also has a business that his channel clearly feeds into, and it's a fascinating one. He posts a lot of videos, and I'm impressed with what he's putting out. He's a very good speaker. I don't know if I've seen a single jump cut in his videos, despite the fact that he's a talking head, you could say. And yeah, let's jump into it.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So the first thing I notice is you do post a lot of videos. So obviously this is a podcast about how to grow a YouTube channel, and you seem to post at least a couple times a day, at least once a day for sure. Is it hard to come up with topics? So I guess just to kind of introduce what you do, you are mostly involved with finances, kind of financial advice. What is the rental market doing? Where should you invest your money? Like, how is the US dollar going to be performing in 5 years down the line? What is the job market doing? So you're kind of in this space. So clearly you have your ear to the ground and all this stuff. How do you come up with topics? Is it hard to maintain this schedule? What's that like?
Yeah, great questions. I'll pull it back a little bit from the beginning and kind of talk about what my journey was like and what it actually took me to get the channel off the ground. So many people, I think, get the idea that things are easy, and YouTube, unfortunately, is not that thing. Like it does take work, but it can be very rewarding if you put out content that people enjoy and want to watch. Now, when I started, my wife was scheduled to have our first child just in a few months. So what I was doing was putting out a lot of content, and then when the baby came, the channel was actually starting to take off. We had 10 or 15,000 subscribers, and then the sleep schedule kind of got a little bit crazy. And so what I did was 3 days a week, I would stay up. I would start filming at midnight, and then I'd be done at about 4:35 in the morning. I would edit the video myself, create the thumbnail, then go to bed at 6 a.m. And then I'd wake up with my son at 9 or 10, maybe 9:30, 10. So I did that for about 9 months. But there were so many great topics to come up with that I was able to really grow a following. Like during that whole period, I think I picked up maybe another 80,000, 70,000 subscribers in the course of 6 months. But my sleep schedule is pretty crazy. But I really took that big sacrifice for a long time that I think a lot of people wouldn't take.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how did you manage that on a personal level? Because this is always a crucial aspect here of how do you stay sane when you're only getting 3 hours of sleep per night max? And you were doing this every day?
Every day. Well, I was filming 3 days a week, but I would film, and then the next day I'd be basically kind of wiped out. Then I'd recover. Then the next day I would do it again.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. So it was I was doing that for a little while, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I feel like when you invest in your personal brand and what you are trying to build, the short-term pain is worth the short-term pain is worth the long-term value.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So as far as the short-term pain, you're pumping out these videos, you're staying up all night to make these videos. How did you kind of transition into something more sustainable? Because I'm guessing you're not doing that anymore. You seem like you're, a little more balanced in your approach these days.
Yeah, well, so at that time, we were in an apartment in Los Angeles, and we didn't have all the room. So the baby would be sleeping. That would be the time that I could go out and film. And so during that period, we were living it was a multi-unit property. We were living at that building, and so I ended up selling the building. And when we sold it, then I just got an office, and we kind of restructured everything in Florida. But yeah. This is pretty much what happened.
I guess I'm curious. So were you filming in the same apartment that your wife and kids were sleeping in? Like,
Mm-hmm.
or so how did you keep from waking up? Was it like, were you kind of in a super separate room, or at least for me?
I was in the living room and they were in the bedroom. So like I was sitting on the floor in the living room. There was a bookshelf behind me, and I just like threw my tripod up with my cell phone and just filmed it. Like I still have the tripod right here because I still film with it, and the microphone, like because I still film everything on my cell phone.
Dang. Wow. Well, there you go. Like you don't need a ton of room to start a YouTube channel and do well at it. Like it's kind of amazing. That is the magic of YouTube, is if you have a phone, if you have time, do you have the will, then you just make videos on something that you are knowledgeable of, and eventually it will work. So I did want to talk to you about kind of your knowledge base here. So I'm curious about your backgrounds. Clearly, you had a lot of information to pull from. You seem like you are experienced in this kind of realm of finance and markets and investing. What is your background exactly?
So it's kind of all over the place. So when I was in high school, junior year in high school, I wanted to make a lot of money. I didn't really know how because I was in school. And then I ended up connecting with a guy that owned weight equipment distribution company that would fulfill gym orders for like LA Fitness and the big gyms. And so I was like working kind of like as an intern with him. Like he would do these big gym deliveries, and like it would be $500,000, $800,000 order. But like he would load up the whole gym. It would just be a brand new gym. He would do everything on the East Coast, like Delaware, New York, Philly, like all over. And I would go there and I would make like $80 for the day. But I would just like kind of build that relationship with him. And then what ultimately happened was I asked him, hey, if I found someone, would you let me have some equipment on consignment? Like if I took pictures of it and I could sell it to like a little home gym or something, would you let me get it for the price that you're selling it for? And then he was like, yeah. So like as a favor to me, he would allow me to do it. And then I just borrowed my dad's work truck and I would just post pictures online on Craigslist. People would make an offer and then we'd just go there and deliver it. And so I would just make the margin on it. We ended up making like 100,000, 112,000 or something in my first year when I was in school. And then I wanted to move to California to skateboard because I grew up doing that and I loved it. I did that until like I basically ran out of money, and I was like 22. I was like basically flat broke. Like, oh, what do I do now? I became a real estate agent. The market just crashed 2008. Became a real estate agent. I sold 5 homes my first 3 months. Made about $35K, but I was in a little, I don't know if you, like it's a training program. I don't know if you ever heard of it. They basically take half your commission. So it was 16 grand because they were like overseeing the transactions and everything. 16 grand, I paid taxes. I ended up walking away with like 10 or 11 grand. Realized that this wasn't going to work. So then I ended up subletting an apartment in East LA, like off of Sunset. It was like cockroach infested. It was disgusting, but it was $440 a month. It was really cheap. It was what I could afford. And I lived there. And I took a letter of recommendation from my initial real estate office that I was at in Long Beach to a bunch of different offices in Beverly Hills. Only one would hire me. Like I was like trying to, because I didn't have any experience like in that area. I didn't know anyone. Like they basically knew that it would be an uphill battle for me. But one guy, manager at Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills, gave me this shot, and he gave me a 90-day probationary period. I got a listing on my 90th day, and he let me stay there. And I ended up selling $100 million in real estate before I was 30, and basically saving up money and investing in real estate. I ended up doing deals like when Elon Musk last got divorced, I represented them selling their property in Bel Air, like Gary Levinson, Steven Spielberg's partner on Saving Private Ryan. I listed that property. I represented that for $10.9 million. I'm CEO of NASCAR. A lot of like bigger names that I was like very fortunate to deal with and to work with. And yeah, just like invested and kind of like use what I've learned and like my friends, what they're learning, and kind of like connect the dots on things that are happening in the world and kind of talk about the economy on my channel.
Sure. So you really worked your way up. You've got a ton of hands-on experience. Like how did that feel when you first started making big money? Because that's kind of for me, that's almost like the magic transitionary point of like you are barely making like $10,000 despite making basically 3 times that with this media, like this shitty real estate gig. They're taking money that you deserve. Like how did it feel when you first start succeeding? Like, did that make you more hungry? I'm guessing it did.
No, to be honest with you, I never really felt like I succeeded. So like you kind of you always like watch the movies like Pursuit of Happiness, and people are like, oh, like he made it, and like the music drops and everything. But when you go through all the ups and downs, you're constantly looking for that next down, and so you're always kind of like extra, I think, like extra padded for any type of downturn. And so you're never thinking like, oh, hands off the steering wheel type of thing. You're always like, okay, next thing, like, and you're trying to like focus on that. My whole thing is like, okay, like how many years if I made no money could I survive? And so like I've always thought like, even when I was before, like you need like a X amount. So for me, like I have a family now, like the numbers always change, and then I increase everything with inflation and the changes in the world and everything that's happening. I'm like, okay, I'm going to X to invest, X for years down the road, or whatever else it is.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I think that mindset serves people well usually. If you are, it sounds like you appreciate what you have, but you're also like you're planning for the future. And any potential bad things that could potentially happen in the future. I mean, even like, especially when you're running your own business or kind of in a commission-based position that you have been in, there are a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot more of a roller coaster. So like my YouTube channel, Teresical, there were times when the channel's just shooting up, and I was pretty young when it was first getting off the ground, and it felt like it would last forever. And now I'm 30, and now I definitely relate more to your mindset of always preparing for, well, what happens if the good times go away? You got to be ready for that. So okay, so you have this successful career, and then 3 years ago you start your channel, and then you are recording these videos.
Well, I didn't initially start on YouTube. So like what happened was while I was a real estate agent, I ended up buying a deal in LA that I ended up developing. And I was filming content around the development of that property. And I grew a following on Instagram. And that following on Instagram like has helped me. And as I was growing the following on Instagram, I realized like, hey, I don't want to be a one-legged stool. Like just have one thing, it's Instagram. If something happens, then I'm out. So I started kind of like diversifying a little bit. YouTube, and then, TikTok a little bit. But like mainly YouTube, the difference between YouTube and IG, the average view duration on IG is like 3 to 7 seconds. So people are not really watching your videos. They might like skim it, they don't have the attention span. There's like moving quick. But YouTube, someone will sit there and watch you for 10 minutes. Like that's a connection. So like I've been in situations where people have noticed me like outside of the country because of YouTube. It's like, I don't know if that's happened on IG, but like the connections people make with you on YouTube, it's like a loyal connection. Like, because they feel like, hey, like I'm friends with this guy. I know this guy because they know like where I'm coming from, and they're like, hey, I'm coming from that same spot. Like, and then like when I meet them, it feels like we've been friends for a long time. So I feel like YouTube is the place to go to build a real like organic audience for sure.
Mm-hmm, definitely, and I feel like it's unusual. Perhaps it's just the people I've talked to, but growing on Instagram first seems way harder than growing on YouTube first. Like I know Instagram now isn't quite what it was years ago. Like now I think Instagram is more stagnant than it used to be. But like did you find that you were able to translate your Instagram audience to YouTube, or were they
not really? Not like I've transferred some, but like it's really hard to get someone to leave an app and go somewhere and do something else. Like it's like you could tell people to, but IG like 2 years ago was a great platform. Now the reach is like okay, but it's like it's so hard to grow. Whereas like TikTok is easy to grow. YouTube is not as easy as TikTok, but you have a better connection with the audience on YouTube.
For sure. Yeah, YouTube subscribers are worth more than TikTok subscribers, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of the nature of the medium. Why do you think Instagram is so much worse now than it was a couple of years ago?
Well, so before, it was interesting. I would do like these Instagram lives, and I would do these lives, and I would sell a training program, or I would sell something, and it was like very lucrative because you could do the live, and it would show on your story for 24 hours, and it was great. Like people would be able to go there and engage with you, and it felt like you had a real connection. Now you can't do that. If you go live, then it will save to your feed, but then they don't pump it out to the audience, and then like you have something on your feed that has like limited views compared to everything else, and like so you don't want it to be there. And so it's like that the organic reach is like greatly depressed. So what ultimately happens is like they don't want you to get free sales without paying them. So they want you to pay IG to advertise.
Oh, wow.
So if you're like a business or you're selling something in your bio, they're like, I don't think so,
That seems like bad business for them in the long run. Like, I understand them wanting to sell more ads or like, have you pay Instagram directly. But I just feel like the whole platform is based on having an ecosystem. And if people aren't able to grow their brands on there, then that seems like they're kind of squeezing it for what it's worth, and just they're gonna be ready for it to die. Unless they're just stupid. I don't know.
A lot of people are spending all their time on TikTok because it's like more enjoyable for a lot of people. They can like post something like, oh wow, 50,000 views, like if you post something on IG, it's always going to be like, for the most part, 9 posts out of 10, the same type of views on your videos, right? But if you post something on TikTok, you might get 10 views or you might get 1 million. So it's more of like addicting.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So moving on, I did want to talk about your company Cash Now. Can you tell us what that is? How does it play into your YouTube channel? Like you talk about it on your channel, like it's in your about section. What is Cash Now exactly?
Cash Now is a credit repair company. And so how it plays into my YouTube channel, what I think is happening right now is the middle class is basically getting wiped out. And I think it's going to get harder and harder over the following year, 2 years, 3 years. And I believe that the difference between the rich and everyone else is obviously the rich borrow money at 1 or 2% interest or 3% or 4% interest, whereas the poor will borrow it for 25 or 30% interest on a credit card and pay 3 times that price back when they factor in interest. And so they're not investing the money, they're just trying to get by. And so what ultimately happens is as we step into a economic shift, the rich are buying up all the assets from the poor, and it's keeping them down. The credit repair business is a good business because right now you have a lot of people that need their credit repaired and they want to get into a better place. And so that's what we're doing. We're helping a lot of people improve their credit to put them in a place where they can buy a home or maybe refinance an auto loan if they have, let's say, for example, bad credit score and they bought this auto loan and the auto loan is $500 a month or whatever it is, $600 a month. The average one in America is $700, 704 or something. So if they can refinance and they can basically get a new loan based on a new credit score, it might save them $200-300 a month. So we're just helping people fix their credit.
I mean, that sounds very helpful. And I see why that works well with your channel too. Just with following the markets and all your financial advice. Is that kind of your main source of revenue from your channel, is kind of pushing people towards this company, or is it YouTube AdSense? Like what are your monetization avenues here?
It's kind of a mix between, like I just sold a property in LA, like I don't know, 8 months ago, that I bought for 400,000 and put a little bit of money into it. And I just sold it for 1.4 million. So like real estate, and then YouTube, and then the credit repair, and like little side investments that I do.
So as far as like YouTube monetization avenues, so like AdSense, do you have sponsorships that you do? Like, is this just kind of a front for pitching your company as well as dishing out useful advice? Yeah, like there's a lot of different ways to monetize on YouTube. I was just wondering if we could get into specifics if you're cool.
Yeah. The credit repair aspect I just brought in about 2-3 months ago. So that's like completely new. I never even thought about doing it until like everything started changing. And I'm like, okay, that model makes sense right now. We're stepping into the winter. A lot of people are going to put their life on a credit card. This is a good model to move forward on. And so like I built out a team around it, and I just rented a place here, like an office where I'm at. So I like built out everything for that, but that wasn't my initial like intent. So regarding monetization, I have like sponsorships. I'll sponsor videos if it's a good fit. Even like one-on-one consultations, mentorship, and flyouts. Like some people have like flown me out to spend a day or 2 days with them.
What does that look like? I'm curious. You spend 1 or 2 days with them. Are you just kind of mentoring them for this time? What are they looking for from you?
So it depends. Some will be kind of on the fence on a real estate deal, and they want me to walk the deal with them. We look in the neighborhood, go through everything, make sure they're not going to make a mistake. There's other people that are even like in different countries. I've just recently flown out somewhere to another country in South America. So like, and they were thinking about doing a real estate development out there. And so like, it's all different.
So it looks like people are mostly, they want advice on specific things that they're doing, not so much like general life advice or something, or financial advice. It's like on a deal.
So I had someone the other day that was like on the verge of going into foreclosure, and he wanted to know what he should be doing. And so I helped him like kind of game plan out how not to go into foreclosure and to kind of escape. And so like I basically turned the computer around to, I have like a Samsung TV, like one of the big TVs, and I just like kind of wrote out a whole plan for him. So everything's like a little bit different. It all kind of like depends on the consumer, what they want, how I can help them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I did want to ask you about your thumbnails. You have very good thumbnails. It's like your face. There's usually some kind of eye-catching background. You have a picture of Gavin Newsom that you seem to use a lot. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, those, believe it or not, like those videos, that was like the period in which I had like explosive growth off of the Newsom, because everyone was talking about him. So anytime he would do something, say something, I would like, boom, throw the mug up, like his mug right on the thumbnail, like my reaction. And then, yeah, those videos always did well though, like 100, 200, 300,000 views. One of them even had like 2 million something.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So it seems like with the past few years, like this was a good time to start this kind of channel with the pandemic and the economy. I feel like people are hungry for this information. Was that a calculated decision? Did it just happen to coincide? I know you've been doing this on Instagram for a while, but moving this onto YouTube, like did the pandemic play a role in that?
No, it was kind of more along the lines of like, I remember one time, like I was at a place to where I really didn't need the real estate commission as much. Like if I didn't have a commission for a year or 2 or 3, I wouldn't it wouldn't change where I'm going to eat. It wouldn't change my life. But I remember I had this one client that was like a nightmare, a real problem. And I'm like, I'm like not happy. Like, I don't want to do this, you know? So I was like, I pulled back and I kind of asked myself, like, what is the future going to look like as a real estate agent? What is the future going to look like in this career? And then I asked myself, like, if I had children, this is before I had children, would I want them to see me cold calling and doing all the things that I have to do right now? Like, is this the life that I really want, or am I just doing this out of like comfort? And then I was like, you know what is actually happening in the world is everything is going online. Everything's going to be digital. The real estate transactions eventually going to go digital. The commissions are going to be going down over time, not up. Like I'm basically in a boat that has a tiny hole at the bottom that eventually is going to get bigger. And then I said, you know what? If the attention is going online, if I can get in front of people at no cost or very limited cost and build out an audience, then no matter what happens in the world, I will be fine. So then I just like, okay, I'm already doing a real estate project. Like, let's put the whole thing online. Let's invite people here. Like I was even inviting people, like doing property walkthroughs, like doing all this stuff. And like, it was pretty crazy because the channel blew up so fast that I ended up paying for the entire construction project exclusively from like course sales and things that people were like coming to the property and all these things. That wasn't my initial thing. Like initially, like I took a loan out to do it, but I ended up making all the money back because of like the strategy, which is just like realizing where things are going. Like everything's going online. If you have an online business or you ever want to be online to sell a product or service, you have two options. One, have the audience, really three. You have one is have an audience, two is hire someone with an audience, or three, pay corporations in which they are going to strip the margins of whatever it is that you're selling, like almost to nothing. So you either need to have the audience or partner with someone that has one.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So you mentioned course sales, and I know you have a lot of courses and information like this. I always recommend people make courses and sell them, or if you're able to sell something that you make once and then you're kind of just able to advertise it, this is a good way to make money with an audience and to also give people something valuable. Do you have any advice for making courses, like as far as making it something that people want to purchase or that is valuable to them? Like just kind of general advice for designing something that will stand the test of time.
I think that you should first have the knowledge to know what you're like. You basically like you have the knowledge and you ask yourself, like, what are all the things that I wish I would have known before I did this, right? Or what questions would I have had for someone that is where I am right now? And then kind of like frame out a course that is actually going to give them all the tools. Because most people just like put together a course that no one really even cares about, or they can't execute on it, or there's no infrastructure for where people can actually get questions answered. Like it doesn't actually help people. And all they care about is making money. But ultimately, if all you care about is making money, then maybe you make money one time, but you don't make reoccurring money. You lose those customers if they go there one time, buy something, they're not happy. So like I would, like Russell Brunson, CEO of ClickFunnels, had a really good saying. He said, if your product is worth, I think it was like, if your product is worth $10, you should charge $1. And that way you'll never have a dissatisfied customer. And I feel like that has always been like the right way to do it. Like my courses that I was selling online were like $299, $297. And like I would have like weekly calls with them and like full support. In fact, like there's one guy that he partnered up with another person in my training. They bought a property in Tampa for like $450,000. They both split the down payment, and I think they just sold it for like almost $1 million. And like they each paid $200 something to get into the mentorship, and they were there for like 4 or 5 months with weekly calls. And so it's like you over deliver, then you'll be good. And I feel like now with the saturated course industry, you want to make sure that you do that to stand out and have really long lasting clients.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that is important for courses is kind of having that interaction that you've touched on, where you can actually talk to people, either, if not one-on-one, still have like enough basic interactions where people can ask questions. Like you don't have to have that necessarily, but as far as delivering the most value, I feel like that is important. Like if you are selling an ebook, that's all well and good, but I find a lot of people I talk to that idea of almost being a coach is very popular and even lucrative and also useful to people. I would say more so than just kind of a PDF of information.
Yeah, like so one of my like I used to sell like coaching calls, and I sold a coaching call to a guy that sells a lot of online training. Like he's probably, I would say like top 20 in the country. Like he does a lot, like probably $500,000, $1 million a month. And he had a saying was like, you know, when you sell a course, half the time people won't even open it up. Like they will just buy it and forget about it, or like, and then I would look through like my Kajabi, like which is like the outlet, all the courses that I've sold, and you could look at the progress, you could track it, and it's like it's crazy. Not everyone will even open it. Like they'll buy it and they'll just like go away, or like they'll buy it and like watch 2% of it. You're like, and then even if you reach out to them, like they're just kind of like not that they don't have the time for it. But then there's other people that will click it, go right through the whole thing, all the way through, ask all the questions and apply it. But I feel like it's only like a smaller percentage, kind of like college, right? If you go to college, then you have probably a fraction of the people that go to like medical school become doctors, or the fraction that go to attorneys, or go to law school become attorneys. It's the same thing. But you just want to make sure you give all the tools, and you have the full support and infrastructure behind it to help people see it through.
So why do you think so many people buy these courses and then I understand like maybe not doing the whole thing, just I don't know, maybe you get a certain amount of information but not even opening it at all. Maybe they just have a ton of disposable income. That escapes me. Like do you have any insight on like what these people are thinking?
No, I mean, I feel like they're like, okay, that's something I'm going to do this weekend, and then they forget. Like it's interesting when you do anything, like anything worth doing, you put in a lot of effort into it. And like, it's exciting to be like, to set a goal. My goal is to do that. And it like feels great. Like you've almost achieved it in your head. But then when you actually go through, it's kind of like going to the gym, right? It's like, you're like, yeah, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to get in shape. But like, it's a lot more than just that. You really have to show up, right? And so I feel like as a course creator, your job kind of is to like push them hard to show up, to get those testimonials and get like to get the results that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes sense to me. So, do you mind if I ask like what kind of CPM you're making on your videos? Because yeah, every space in YouTube seems to have different CPM. So like with my channel, Tree Skull, it's in gaming, and it has usually between like 7 and 15 on like a really good day.
So on the 25th of September, it was $21.33. And as of today, I think I did a video that like it was $14.30. So it's like the average is somewhere between like 15. And then I have a low here of one day with $11.59. But like the average, let me see if I have a 90-day window. The highest that it's been in 90 days is $23.38. And the lowest that it's been is $9.45. But so it looks like an average of somewhere between like 15 to 18.
Wow, that's fascinating. I feel like whenever I hear about other people's CPM, I feel like mine could be better. I think part of that is the space. It could be gaming in general, though. Like you don't swear in your videos. I guess you could call it family friendly, but that does tend to help a lot. And I found even though I don't really swear much in recent videos, I think the fact that the backlog is so littered with that, you could say, that it still, to this day, kind of affects CPM. So, just for people listening, that's something to keep in mind. If it's like an artistic choice, I guess, like for your videos, clearly, like you don't really need to swear. You're kind of dispensing information, talking about trends. For me, I guess it's more like entertainment, kind of just. I guess swearing makes more sense in my space, and I don't know. It's kind of an artistic choice.
Yeah, like I watched that guy Nico. I forget his last name. Is the watch guy. He's like cursing all the time. I'm like, how the hell is this guy monetized? Like, he's like, F this, F that. I'm just like, wow, like you're just going off. But I'm like, when I watch it, I'm like, this guy has a great personality. Like it's an addictive personality. He's like very charismatic. And I feel like the cursing kind of like makes him feel more organic, relatable, and kind of like a friend. It's kind of like going out and have a beer with your buddy or something. He has that vibe, right? And so some people, they can throw that in there and it feels good. He might get punished in the short term with like ad revenue, but long term he has like a really loyal fan base because of it. So it's like a win-lose kind of, or lose-win, whatever.
Yeah, I think authenticity is the key here. If that's who you are and you're holding back a lot by not dropping F-bombs and or whatever, then I think you will hurt your chances of succeeding because at the end of the day, I think what you really want to do is connect with your audience. You want them to feel like they trust you and that you aren't bullshitting them. To put it bluntly, they want to feel like you're somebody who is speaking truth or speaking from the heart, even if what you're saying is pre-written or something. And that seems to be one of the cornerstones of having a dedicated audience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people don't want to. They don't want to listen to fake people, and people can like sense it if you're fake or you're like. If you are fake, if you're kind of like pretending, if like people know, like anyone with half a brain can watch somebody and be like, okay, that doesn't feel right. That guy doesn't feel right. You're like, oh, probably because like he knows he's not even that person, But people that are organically themselves, you can kind of like, they're magnetic. You can like, you just feel it. It feels right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'd like to ask this question. It's a little generic, but I think it is important. If you could give one piece of advice for growing a YouTube channel, the most important thing, what would it be?
I would look at YouTube as what it really is. It's a vehicle. Imagine you live in you live in Austin and you want to take it to Philadelphia, right? Like you need a strong vehicle that's not going to break down. And what that means is like you want to have a brand that's going to mean something, an audience that is going to be there to support you, be consistent with how you put out content. Like you want to take care of the car. You want that car to actually be able to get you where you want to go. And what's happening right now in the world is that I believe influencers are going to be paid more than any athlete in history. There's going to be like Mr. Beast and all these people that are going to make a multiple of what Michael Jordan and Kobe made. There's going to be all these different people that are going to be signing, $10 million sponsorship deals and all this stuff with like huge brands like Coca-Cola. Like that's what these corporations are going to be doing, is paying influencers to promote them, because nobody gives a F about hiring Coca-Cola to sponsor you. What they want Coca-Cola. They want to have like, the top influencers representing Coca-Cola, wearing like Coca-Cola shirts and, doing like Mr. Beast type giveaways and, sponsored by Coca-Cola. Like that's what's actually going to make people trust a large corporation, is influencers. And so if you have a goal that you want to be an influencer, you want to have some type of audience, you have to ask yourself, like, what is that audience and what is your goal with that audience? Like, is your audience there to maybe build out let's say a business, or are you trying to like build connections? Like there's many people right now, I watch a couple podcasts that all they do is talk about business and investing and interview people. And I'm like, that is so damn smart. And the reason it is because I started doing it. Like I interviewed 2 private equity guys the last 2 weeks. And the reason being is like you get to network with all the people that you want to have connections with, and you can use the podcast as a reason to have a relationship with them before you have to like do a cold outreach, right? But if you do a podcast with someone, it's like, okay, now we're like quick kind of friends, right? So it's like if somebody hits you up later, it's like, okay, like, and then you can connect one person to the next person. So if you're going to try to be like an influencer and you want to be in, let's just say like I did a YouTube video or Instagram reel talking about this the other day. I was like, if you are a roofer, for example, and you are working for a roofing company and you want to be rich, but that boss can never pay you that type of money. Like it would be so easy. You have to put the work in, but it would be so easy to like become a multi-millionaire off of that. All you'd have to do is like write out a list of like the 100 problems that everyone goes through before hiring a roofing company, what they should be looking out for, what to avoid, what to do, how to build out a team, what you've learned working with this person and that. And you basically do all the videos. You make the videos incredible, really value packed with a great thumbnail. You put out all those videos, and what's ultimately going to happen is you basically have like Park Avenue real estate on YouTube, because people are going to search it and be like, okay, that guy's an authority in the roofing industry. And then all you do is you take those videos and be like, hey, I want to interview this person in the roofing industry and that one and all these different people. And then those people might have a bigger following. And so all you're doing is connecting. And then before you know it, you're as big as them by association. And then you're like, oh, cool. Now I'm like this roofing guru. And then you're like, okay, if you want to get a quote on a roof, or if you want the best this on roof, go to this website. And then people go there, and then you end up getting like an affiliate commission or referral commission for roofing jobs all over the country. And all you're doing is sitting there filming videos on your cell phone, just because you're the source of information. You control the audience, right? And the audience is what actually pays the bills.
Absolutely. So one thing I also wanted to talk to you about is, like, did you scale up? Like, do you have editors working for you now? Do you have somebody who makes your thumbnails? Or like before we were talking for this interview, you were like posting a video and kind of doing the stuff for it. Are you a one-man show, or do you have a team behind you?
I was a one-man show for a while, but now I have a business partner in Germany. I have an editor in India. I have a copywriter in the UK. I have a VA, virtual assistant, in also the UK. And then we had a guy in Venezuela that he just doesn't have time. Like, it's just not a fit for what we're doing. We're scaling up cashnow.video. And so like we're kind of really expanding right now, because we have a Discord channel with like affiliates and people that are involved, and we have like 600 something people in there. So we're like dealing with that and dealing with like a lot. We're gonna probably be doubling the team in like the next probably 2 weeks maybe. But yeah, right now it's like 5 people and me.
Mm-hmm. So how do you go about finding the right employees? Because obviously that's crucial. I think there's a lot of trust that goes into hiring somebody. What advice do you have for making sure somebody's a good fit, even if they're an editor or like whatever it is they're doing?
It's funny that you asked that, because I just did a video talking about this, and like I was like, oh, I'm going to lose so many subscribers for this video. Because like sometimes you put videos out and you're like, people are not going to like it. Be like, whatever. Like I believe it. Like, this is what's real to me. I'm just going to put it out. So I posted a video like watching to see if my subscribers are going to go down. And I'm like, oh, I lost 5. I'm like, oh, gain 5, gain 6. Like, so you lose some that are like not as loyal, but you gain some. But anyway, the video is about the unemployment numbers. And they said that the unemployment rate is 3.5%. And I'm like, okay, well, my experience hiring, like the last 4 months, I'm like, okay, I want to have an assistant. I don't want it to be a VA, like a virtual assistant. I want to have in person, right? I'm like, I'm going to hire this guy. I'm like looking at the table, because that was exactly where he was sitting. I'm like, I'm going to hire this guy. He's like, he gave me a demo reel. It's like a great, demo reel. It looks like an incredible editor. I'm going to hire this guy and he can help me. It was like $35 an hour, right? The guy was like trash, absolutely horrible. After the third day, I'm like, this dude sucks. Like, I need to get rid of this guy, because his demo reel was a lie. It wasn't actually his work. Like, he had no clue what he was doing. Like, I could have had my wife edit a thumbnail, and she's never done a thumbnail in her life, and I'd probably better. My wife's really smart, but like, granted, you're hiring the editor, right?
Right.
I ended up paying him an extra day. I ended up paying him an extra day to just, I'm like, here, like, well, this isn't working. But I paid him for the next day. I'm like, it was an expensive lesson. Anyway, I went to a Mexican restaurant a month ago, a waiter, great customer service. I'm like, this guy would be awesome for cash now. I want to hire this guy. I'll bring him into the office. Like, he'll make a multiple of what he's making here. And I was like, here, send me a DM on Instagram. Like, I'll give you the address. You come over. He's like, okay. And then like 9 a.m., you're supposed to show up. He texts me at 9:09. Oh, I'm sick. I'm like, dude, like, why didn't you tell me like an hour before that? I'm just like sitting here waiting for you. Never texted me again. Completely gone, ghosted me. Then I was like, I got upgraded my Comcast, and the guy had great customer service. I'm like, hey, bring this guy in. Like, he can help with cash now, right? I'm like, hey, we could give you this and this and this. Like, and I was basically telling him like, hey, you can make, 70, 80, $100,000 a year, do a really good job, maybe more. He's like, oh no, I have more potential here. I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. It's just like really hard to find people. Moral of the story, hard as hell to find people. So I was talking about it in my YouTube video today. I'm like, if you're a small business owner like I am, and you want to hire 3 employees, just 3, not many, 3, at a salary in which someone can actually afford to live, to where they're not going to leave the next day, you're going to pay them $6,000 a month, right? The $1,500 a week. That's what you're going to pay them, right? You're pay them $18,000 a month in salaries for 3 people. Then you're going to pay an office lease, $2,000, $20,000, right? Workers' comp, utilities, expenses, right? You're going to pay all this stuff, right? So maybe you're $25,000 a month in expenses, right? I'm like, now let's say that you sell a product and you have a $25 or 25% margin, right? You would literally have to sell $4,000 worth of that product every day to make enough just to pay off all of your expenses without paying yourself a single penny. And I'm like, that is not feasible for a small business owner to do that. 30 days a month, if you made $1,000 a day, you'd make 30,000, your expense would be 25, you factor in taxes. Like that's basically it, right? So you have to make $1,000 a day, 25% margin. You would need to sell $4,000 product, right? $120,000 in sales a month. That's crazy. But if you do outsourcing, which I don't like to do, but I'm kind of forced to do it, you can hire people India and other locations where it's like they are happy to work. Like I have people that are like grinding, that are happy to work, that are like really positive attitude for a fraction of what's happening here in America. And we look at Airbnb, they're closing offices in New York or in Silicon Valley. Yelp's closing offices in New York. Like what's happening is this work from home thing is going to be a growing trend. And more talent is going to be realized in the East. And it's going to be a really big problem for the American that thinks like, hey, like I deserve this. It's like, no, you only deserve what your value is to the marketplace. Like if you are worth $20 an hour, that is what you deserve. Like no boss owes you anything.
So do you like $6,000 a month? I assume these are full-time employees that you're talking about.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so like, do you think with these kind of bad experiences with these guys, like were there red flags that you think you could have seen that would have avoided that guy ghosting you or the guy whose demo reel was fake?
No, I mean, like one of my friends owns a online nutrition company and they do like really well. And he's always like, yeah, I'm in between, usually somewhere between 5 and 8 lawsuits at a time. And it's either a customer or like someone doesn't get a proper lunch break or someone shows up late or someone is like, it's always something. And I'm like, huh, like he's in California, granted. So it's like a little more challenging for an employer there. But when you have the work from home thing, you basically avoid a lot of that because they're working on their time. They like, there's no direct liability in terms of not getting a lunch break or any of that stuff. Like everything is very clear and easy. So I don't think there's anything I could have seen. Like I think maybe one of the mistakes that I made was having a high expectation that if you pay a lot, that you get a lot. Because $35 an hour is a hell of a lot of money, but at least in my opinion, because that is like an engineer's salary. $35 an hour, $40 an hour. That's an hourly wage. So I think that it was the idea that I had like, hey, if you spend a lot, you deserve the best person. It's not always going to be true.
I feel like it can be true, but it's when you have like high hour jobs like that, where it's full time. I feel like people who have like really high hourly rates, they tend to be more specialized. Like they'll kind of show you the ropes or show you a certain style. Like here's the direction you should go in. You know, they're almost there for more high level guidance. Whereas somebody who is making less hourly. They kind of make up for it by working more hours. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's I guess it's the difference between like being a manager and being someone below a manager. It's I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like if you, but the thing is, like sometimes you don't know who actually has that skill and who does it until after. And I feel like if you have, I feel like basically America is going to be going through a period in which the last couple of years we were sold a narrative that employers owe employees more money. And people don't realize that the only way an employer could actually pay an employee that much money is the employee has to make the employer money. And so if the employee is not making the employer money based on all the expenses of the business and everything associated, taxes, everything, then the employer is just not going to hire them because they're not going to have a job themselves. And that's kind of like the direction where we're going. Everything's getting really expensive for a small business owner. And that's why I think right now is like the perfect time to grow and scale a company, get started on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and like really try, because we're stepping into like the biggest wealth transfer in human history over the next couple of years. If you're really smart, you'll make a fortune. And if you let the opportunity go by, you will never forgive yourself, because it's like never going to happen again.
So when you talk about a wealth transfer, you're talking about like the ability to have your own personal brand and your own personal company online. Is that kind of what you mean? Like people have the ability to make a name for themselves. It's never been easier to get attention to yourself now versus ever in history.
Wealth transfer meaning that that all the wealth is being transferred from the 95% to the top 5%. And a lot of the top 5%, all those businesses are found where? Online. Every business basically has an online presence. Every big business. The reason is that their scale. You have economies of scale. You can get in front of millions and millions of people. And I mean, like the potential is there. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of like the businesses were, localized only in like one area. But now, given the changes in the world, it's getting very hard for those small businesses to dominate. So we're getting the wealth being transferred to the big corporations that are dominating right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And that is a crucial point. I do worry about the future sometimes, but I guess being on YouTube seems like it's been a good place to be for me. And I guess I also wanted to know your opinion on, so Americans wanting to work from home more. Do you feel like that's going to hurt like the average employee who wants to work from home? Do you think that's going to make it easier for companies to outsource their job because they're already kind of getting used to working remotely with their employees? Or is this overall going to be a good thing for employees?
I think that the work from home thing can work for some people and some jobs. But what people don't realize, though, is that the work from home thing, if your employer does not have that connection with you, and you're simply an email address that he looks at or she looks at, the odds are over time, as they start cutting costs and they start to look to expand, they're not going to want to expand on $100,000 a year salaries. They're going to look to expand to other locations at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 salaries. And there's going to be a bigger push to the east in India and China and Japan and these countries that are filled with places that potentially have a lower cost of living and a lot of STEM degrees, science, tech, engineering, math. Very, very smart people that are willing to work for less that will show up. I think America is not ready for that. And I think the work from home thing increases the likelihood that there will be more jobs being sent over there if people are just only working from home. Now, if you're working from home like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, but you're going into the office, you have a great connection with your job, or maybe, it's a different thing. It's like, not the norm. Your situation is not the norm compared to everyone else. Like, that's one thing. But I'm not going to like give a broad overview and say, oh, if everyone does this, then that's what this means. But odds are, if we're in a situation where people demand $100,000 a year to work and to live, because that's basically what it would cost in a lot of places. Like New York, I think the average rent's like $5,000 a month. So it's like, if you owned a business in New York City, I know it's an extreme example, and you had 10 employees and you're paying them $8,000 a month each, right? You're paying $80,000 a month for those 10 employees. That's a hell of a lot. $1 million a year in salaries, right? Be like, hey, I could hire 20 employees over in online, and I could do it for a fraction. Like, I have all my employees, I would not be able to hire one employee for the price of all those employees here.
Oh my God. Wow. That's I see where you're going with this. It makes a lot of sense. It's kind of a scary thought. I don't know, like what would the average American need to do to even compete with that? Like, is it even possible?
Yeah, no, I'm an optimistic guy. I believe that there's a ton of opportunity, but I'm also I read a book a long time ago. A guy said, smart people see things for how they really are, and everyone else will see things for how they want them to be. And how I see it is that there's a huge opportunity right now, the next couple of years, to build out a personal brand, to build out an online business, to build out a team, to be forward thinking. Ask yourselves, hey, what problems are people going to be walking into in the next couple of years, and how can I build a product or service around that to help people? Like, how can I do this to be of service to mankind, right? If you're like looking at things from that perspective and say, how can I keep costs down? How can I create value? How can I, be an asset to the world? If you're asking yourself that, you'll never have a problem making money, right? But if you think that things are just going to stay the same, that's not going to happen. We're going to start to see a lot of jobs get cut. We're going to start to see the salaries get reduced. We're going to see all this stuff happen as the economy changes. Right now, the economy is looking very shaky. Things are not looking like they were a year ago. And so with that, we're going to see some people, I think, lose their job. I think like 53% of employees or employers are scheduling layoffs. So it's like, we're seeing the transformation. It's up to a smart person to be like, hey, what do I want to do? Do I want to do an online brand, or do I want to build like a product service? Like, how can I get in front of people for free? It's going to be YouTube. It's going to be social media. I can get in front of people for free that like what I'm doing, and they would buy from me, and I would not have to pay any corporations any, ad spend. That's a good competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm. Right. I love that philosophy of how can I be of service, and I agree. I like to be optimistic as well. I think overall I am, and I feel like this is a good note to end on, where I feel like that was a nice cherry on top there. And so, John, it's been great talking to you. I appreciate your perspective. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? Pitch whatever it is you want to pitch.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, TikTok at This Is John Williams. And that's basically it. I'm nothing really for sale. I mean, if you guys need your credit fixed, we'd love to help you. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm. Right on. And that's cashnow.video.
Cashnow.video. We're actually going to be doing some really cool things there, now that you mention it, where it's going to be like a video blog. So what we're building out now is we're going to have what I think is happening. We're stepping into like an affordability problem. And so I'm going to be bringing on experts from all different industries, whether it's like bankruptcy attorneys, accountants, and ask them like the top 15 or 20 questions that people are asking them, and how they can basically pivot and position themselves correctly. And we're going to basically break everything down into like short form clips and allow people to improve themselves and get answers to questions and help pivot during the hard times.
That's awesome. Love it. There you go, everybody. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe, follow whatever platform you're on, so that you can hear my voice in the next one and get more awesome information on how to grow a YouTube channel, your social media presence, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody.